We're back, and it's COMP1011, and it's Advanced Object-Oriented Programming with Java and Android now. And I have to apologize again for those people online, a bit under the weather, but we're going to make the show go on. Last week we had issues installing things with Android, and some of those problems that I found out between then and now were, a lot of it was the AVD, the virtual device that we created. So an example would be, let's go into Eclipse for a second, please. I'm just going to launch Eclipse here. And I'm going to turn the lights up a little bit. Okay, that's better. So I've got a sample project up here as I pulled up Eclipse. And I'm going to start this sample project from scratch. But I want to show you something. Inside Eclipse itself, when you look at the run, what you need to do is make a run configuration. After you've got Eclipse set up properly in your AVD, my run configuration, I have to kind of talk about, first of all, you may not have this right away. You may only have this line here, Android application. But you may not have these, right, inside. In order for you to do that, you have to click New. So you have to create a new run configuration. Let's do that. So here's my new run configuration, right? I have to call it something. So let's say I'm going to call it, like, default, whatever configuration I want to use, right? I need to give the project a name, right? Or at least talk about where the project is. There's the target, right, which is the device. But the project has to be, you have to kind of choose which program it's going to be. In this particular case, my project is called demo. So I'm going to call it demo. So your project has to have this section has to have a target for your project. And you can browse to see your project files, right? So this is one piece that we missed last week. And the other thing is, from a target perspective, I have a couple of AVDs that I built. One that's built off Android 2.3.3, and the other one that's Android 5.0.1. Now it says launch on all compatible devices or automatically pick compatible device, always uses the preferred AVD if set below. And it says launches on compatible device, AVD otherwise. So prefer one if you want, or automatically pick, you can do either. And for common, I would leave this one alone. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm going to apply this thing. So now it's called default. I also have one called demo, and if you notice, it's identical right now. And I have this new configuration, and if I want to delete a configuration, right, I can right-click and delete it. So I need to create a configuration in order for me to run my code. I can't run my code, right, if I don't have a run configuration. Right? So that's one of the things we have to do to set up. And again, if you guys recall, what we had to do is download and install the Android SDK, right? So we went and downloaded the Android SDK, which, by the way, took hours. We had to take hours to download that thing, right? And we installed the SDK by itself, right? So we actually did, we downloaded it, and we did it by the standload SDK tool. That's what we did last time around. We did not install Android Studio, and the reason I recommend not installing Android Studio right now is because there's still some, I would like to say it's still malformed. It's still a mutant, all right? It's not quite yet a superhero, right? And not that I'm saying Eclipse is that much better, but I prefer still Eclipse if I was going to teach it over Android Studio. Okay, so that's what we did. We did download the SDK, and after we downloaded the SDK, we had to, just to recall, we had to open up the SDK manager, and it looked like this, right? Remember? So the SDK manager was a bunch of tools we had to download, right? And if you notice, there's a bunch of tools here that I kind of put up, right? And here's something, if you notice, I have installed 15 packages left for my Android 5.1, right? I have Android 5.01, but it looks like Android 5.1 has just been released. Right, did you guys have that as well?
5.1?
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look. If how I got that was I pressed this little Android mascot here in Eclipse, right? And I clicked onto this thing, and then it brought up my Android SDK manager. Did you guys have that?
I have
It
5.0.
shows 16.
Right, 15 or 16. How about you? Did you guys all do this? So there's about 15 or 16 updates. For now, let's leave this unchecked. Let's not download these things for now. It's going to take another hour, right? So I just don't feel like wasting time with the latest version of Android 5.1, API 22, okay? I don't want that, and I recommend for now, let's just leave it alone. The other thing is that one thing they did do is they updated the Android SDK platform tools, right, to revision 22, right? Guys, I think this is a good choice to do. This latest Android tools, which is 24.12, right, is good. But there's an update available for my Android platform tools, to revision 22. So this I could see us doing, right? But not all these. I don't recommend all this stuff right now, only because now you don't have to. By the way, you don't have to include all these things, right? If you want to go with the bare bones, let's unclick this. And then click the stuff that you need. You need this SDK platform. You don't need samples, right? You need documentation, right? You don't need the Google APIs for now. Let's leave that all unchecked. If you just did this, there's only 4 packages to install. This is more reasonable. The other thing that you noticed is that way down when you start off a package, it says, how about this Android 2.2, right? They try to get you to download and install Android 2.2. API level 8. We're not going to do that. We're going to stick with API level 10 at the minimum. Okay, so let's install these 4 packages.
Which one is the fourth package?
Sorry?
Which one is the fourth package?
The first one is Android SDK platform tools, which is revision 22. Right? There's the Android 5.1. I just chose 2 packages, documentation and SDK platform. And then download way down here, right, there's this other one that says Android support library. It's going to go to revision 22. All right?
What's the fourth one? Can you show Android support library?
So I'm going to install these 4 packages. I'm going to go to the Android license and click accept license, because these are the changes that have been recently made. Now, if you notice, it's going to go quick, because there's only 4 goddamn packages to go through, right? Not just like, not 40, right? It's going to take too long. Now you'll notice even this is going to take quite a little time to take care of. Okay, while this is doing that, we can do this in the background and still work. Okay, so I'm just going to close this off. I'm going to actually minimize this thing. If you notice, I just got this sample project. I'm going to start off with a new project by closing this one down. Right, so I'm going to go File, Close All. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say File, New, Android Application Project. Now, if you don't have Android Application Project in the header, it may be because you haven't run it one yet. But you can always go to it by clicking Project, right, and then selecting Android Application Project, and clicking Next. Are we there?
Library and what else?
I'm sorry. It is. Sorry, I'm trying to run this in the background. Let's cancel this then. I'll cancel that and then go back to this. Here. So I need to do Android SDK platform tools, which is like revision 22. I've got my Android 5.1, which is just these 2. Documentation for Android SDK. That's the API 22, and the SDK platform. Just those 2, not the rest.
Okay, so just the 2 in
Just those 2, yeah, because it's too much, right? And then going down, way down here, there's an Android support library. 21's moving to 22. And let this run in the background. You don't have to touch this right now.
That's just yeah, once it accesses the
Really?
yeah, you have to. I think you have to run Eclipse as an administrator.
Okay, I don't know. Let's see what happens. So again, I'm running mine on the Mac. You guys are on the PC. It's the same. If I go to start a new project again, File, New, Project, right? Or you can choose Android Application Project if it's there in the options. I can go to Android Application Project and click Next. Right now, my application name is going to be whatever I want, and let's just call this Welcome. Right? I'm going to do this in reverse DNS kind of thing, right? Which is domain name notation. We're going to do this reverse, okay? And the way it's going to be is like com dot whatever the name is dot welcome, matching the package name, right? So let's leave this as com dot Georgian or CA, because Georgian's CA, right? CA dot Georgian College dot welcome, right? Now, if you notice the minimum required SDK, it kind of defaults to 2.2, right? No. We don't have 2.2. We're going to go to 2.33, which is API level 10. That's where we should go. My target SDK looks like it's 21, right? And if you look at back into this thing here, 21 is, you know, my the latest tools, version 5, right? Which is cool. I don't mind doing version 5, but it doesn't target a lot of devices, right? So yeah, I could certainly try and load it with SDK level 21. That's okay. And let's leave these as defaults. Now the theme, it says hollow light with dark action bar. That's fine. You can also choose no theme or hollow dark or hollow light. Let's leave it the way it is. But look what it says. The package name must be a unique identifier for your application. Cool. It is typically not shown to users, but it is a must stay the same. Must stay the same for the lifetime of your app. That's fine. Let's go next. Okay. Now it says, on the next screen, it says create custom launcher icon, right? Now, if you unclick this, it'll give you the default Android launcher icon, okay? It's just, that's what it'll do if you don't have this clicked. Let's also leave this clicked and leave this click, create activity. Activity is almost like your, think about this as your first scene, right? And on the iOS side, we would call this, how many scenes do you want? You want an initial scene? Yes? It's an initial activity here in Android, right? You can create project in the workspace, or you can allocate it someplace else. Right now we're going to leave it as is and click next. Okay, so here's an example of what our icon is going to look like. Now it's an icon set, and if you notice the different sizes here, take a look. There's MDPI, HDPI, XHDPI, XXHDPI, and another one. Why? Because what we're trying to do here is add additional images so that they work better on different devices. My default image name is launcher icon, but we can certainly just, use our own. We're going to do that later on today. We can also choose clip art. If I choose clip art, right, then it's going to be a clip art image instead of an icon, an image icon. We can also use text. So I can choose one of the three, not all three. Either it's going to be an image or clip art or text, not three.
Like if you, the other thing you want to say, I was going to ask you if you want to have an image with text on top of it.
You have to make it. Yeah. So this is where we would stick with. Let's stick with this image. We can also change the background color. Background color right now is white. If I want to change it to some other color, like for example, if I want to make it more green or something else, you know, I can do that. And then of course, the background color will become whatever I choose to make it. Right, let's put it back to white or whitish. Okay, and let's click next. Okay, now it tells us here's different activities that we can create. A blank activity is usually what we want to try and make. There's also an empty activity, right? And there's a full screen activity, a master detail activity. This master detail usually includes some kind of table view. And there's a navigation drawer or a tabbed activity. There's different options for us. We're going to start here at this blank activity and click next. Okay, the activity name that it gives you by default is main activity. You can change this later, but for now, let's leave it as is. And again, what does it say here? The name of the activity class to create. This is the first scene, if you will. Okay, and we're going to click finish. Okay, if all things are equal and all are good, I've got my first little app. You guys should have this too. And I have this thing, it's called welcome. That's what you should see. All right, still loading. Give it a chance to load. Right? And it says, I've got a jar mismatch. Look what it says. You guys have this? Jar mismatch, fix your dependencies. You may or may not have that error. Do you?
Take again.
Still loading? Sometimes you'll get that. And the reason why is because on some systems, as an example, you need a certain level in order for it to work. So how do you fix this? Well, I would take this jar mismatch fixture dependencies, I would copy it and go into Google for sure,
And then I
and,
usually have troubleshooting.
and sometimes they'll have it. And again, if it's for for Android.
Auto search, they usually have, like when you put it on there, if it comes up
Yeah.
pre-existing, then they generally have.
It maybe. And here's the answer that they have here on Stack Overflow. It says use a library project just for the support library.
We did get the error.
Yeah. As of ATT22, using Eclipse Juno. I don't think any of the above are really the best answers. I also don't think it's recommended to use the external jar function in Eclipse anymore. Rather, what worked for me is to create a separate empty library project and then use Android tools, add support library to get the latest version you need or want. Because right now what's happened is I have a library mismatch, right? I'm looking for support for application version 21, and I'm using 21 that's been updated, and that's why I'm getting this error, right? Now the easier thing is to step back a step. Because remember, I have other options. I don't have to go with the latest version. I can go on version 4 of the operating system. So right now I'm targeting. First of all, the device I'm targeting I can choose because I've created 2 AVDs, and we're going to do that in a second. One is a Nexus 1, the other one is a Nexus 5. So if I choose a Nexus 1, the reason why I'm getting this error is because my jar files, which by the way live in here, right? Here's my app compatible version 7 jar, right? And here's my Android jars. The jar files are basically all the library files, right? And for me to fix this, that's why I'm getting this silly error, is because my jar files aren't compatible with the version of Android I want to support. Okay, so I could fix it, but I think the easier way is just delete this whole project for now. If you have a problem, I don't know if you guys have the same problem as I do. Yes? Yeah, if you do, I would delete the project, right, altogether. Now, the challenge is, if you delete the project, does it remove it from the workspace? No. Watch. It says, do I want to delete it and on the disk? Cannot be undone? Definitely. I say OK and press OK. That deletes it completely, right? And I get rid of it. Now, see how it says app compatibility version 7? Even though I use Android 5.01 here, right, as an example, my other project demo, right, which targeted a different version of Android, works just fine. Let's do it one more time. So File, New, Android Application Project, and I'm going to create another project, except this time I'm going to step down my SDK requirements, okay? So I'm going to go application name is welcome again, and I'm going to say ca.georgiancollege.welcome. Okay, that's the name of my name of the file. My name of my project is welcome. That goes here. The name of my company goes here, and where the rest of it goes basically is this in reverse order. Okay, so this has to be 22.33, and let's tone this down from API 21. Let's go back down. Now look what it's trying to do. It's trying to get me to API 22. I compile with 22. Let's tone it down a little bit. I know I have a couple of other APIs that I've loaded in here. Actually, I'm done loading my packages, which means I have to install Eclipse afterwards. I have to update my tools, right? It says documentation for Android SDK is not installed. It's okay. I'll install that separately. But I have API 22 now, and I have my tools updated, but I have to update my tools in Eclipse, right? Okay, so I know I have a couple of other things in here. I have Android 3, and I do have an Android 4 something that I've loaded up, which is Android 4.12, because one of you have 4.12 and the other one has 4.22, yeah? Which is API level 17 and 16. You guys should have the same. All right, so let's go with API level 17 here, API 4, so 4.2.2, which is a fairly recent one. Let's try this one when we load up a project. So I'm going to minimize this, and instead of Android 21, I'm going to go to 4.2.2, which is number 17. Okay, same thing with this one. So I'm shooting lower. And my hollow light dark theme I'll keep the same. And let's see if this gives me the same error as I got last time. I'm just going to click through very quickly and not stop and press finish. And let's see if this causes me an error. Okay, it says I got some other errors here. Android, color, control, normal, all this other stuff. These are errors that are occurring here in my console. Right? Here's my welcome app though. Do you see any errors here? Yeah? There's errors in here? No, there's no errors here at all. All right? And the reason why you don't see errors in here at all is because I didn't have that same problem as I had last time. Okay, how do I look at the, if you follow me along, how do I look at the actual design aspect of this thing? Well, I need to look at, there's a couple of folders here. One of them is source, right? And another one is, here's my generated Java files. I have my assets, I have my bin file, and inside my bin file I have an Android manifest XML file. So if I double click on that, I get this. Let's take a look at this app. Let's take a look at this manifest for a second, because this is important. Okay. The manifest tells me the name of my package. It's ca.georgiancollege.welcome. Here's my version code, level 1. My version name is level 1. Right. I also can have a shared user ID if I want, and so on. If I go to application though, this other tab down here, right, it also tells me some other things. I can choose a special theme, and I can browse for a theme here, or icon, which is my normal launcher, a logo if I want to, and so on. There's other things I can put in here. We might come back here again, right, when it comes to looking at different activities here. There's my permissions, my instrumentation if I want to access different things, different sensors, and here's my actual manifest in XML format. So typically we're going to refer to this manifest again, but let's leave it alone for now. Okay, but if you remember in demo I had in my source files, I had right down here a main activity.java file, right? But what's happened now, for whatever reason, and I installed this thing the exact same way this time around, I don't have a main activity here, right, .java file. See that? And this is sometimes what happens, and again, I would have to go down here to, it would be a class as an example, right? If I wanted to do this. And of course, I would call this main activity because I don't have this activity in play, right? And of course, my superclass would be activity, so I want to search for that. I would browse for activity. And here it is, my Android app activity type, right? And press OK. So this is my android.app.activity is what I'm inheriting from. Now it says, do you want a public static void main string? For now, let's leave it alone. And I want to definitely inherit my abstract methods, right? And press finish. So now I have a main activity, right? This is cool. But this main activity, even though I've made it, is not like this main activity up here. Even though this is main activity.java and this is main activity.java, if I double click this one, right, as an example, it's a little different in that I don't have all the classes and objects this thing comes with over here. When I create a default project like this, I need to get all these classes and objects in here. Right? I don't have that right now. So these are things that I'm missing. Right? I've got my build config. I've got my bin files. There's some other assets here that are in my bin files. Right? My resources.apk. I've got my libraries. This is my Android support version 4 for this old application. But you know, again, if you look at what I've got, where is the ability for me to drag and drop? I've got my problems. This is my bottom field here. But if you look up here, my main activity is actually code, right? I don't see my design document. Does anyone remember where my design document is? When I make my first Android application? The where? Okay, let's take a look. So if I'm looking at my demo project that I made before, right? I have a libs, a resources. These are all my resources in here with different drawables. And here's my layout. And here's activity main XML. That's in my demo, right? But do I have that in my welcome? So I go to bin resources and I go here and I go to layout and I got nothing. So I can do new, right? And again, if I want to try and put a new item in play, I want to try and build this thing up from scratch, I can certainly try, right? But something is definitely broken, right, for me not to get my files. 100%. I'll tell you right now. If I don't have my activity main, which I asked for, and I don't have my main XML document for my device, something's gone wrong with my build. And it happens frequently with Java. It happens frequently with Android Studio as well. Just letting you know. So you see these problems I'm getting, you'll get them too, right? But you have to ignore them. You have to kind of move on. There's nothing you can do to correct it unless you do a lot of work, a lot of pre-work to fix it. So I'm just going to delete this one more time. Sometimes what really helps as well from a problem solving perspective, I'm just going to kill this. I know. I'm going to leave it alone. Is sometimes what really helps is to run the updater, right? So if I just check for updates from my actual ADT plugin for Eclipse, this is important too. So one piece is I've installed all this stuff, right? The next piece is, do I have an update that I need to do for Eclipse for my ADT tools? Because my tools for Eclipse just got updated. So sometimes what I want you to do is, comb Eclipse to see if I need an update for the software. So it's going to do that right now. And I would recommend, if you have these issues, to update Eclipse to make sure you don't have any issues. I went to Window Help. You should have that. Okay, look at all these goddamn updates, man. This is the updates for Eclipse. Nothing to do with Android. Okay, cool. I like all these updates. These Git stuff I don't really need, but I'm here. I might as well do it. And I'm going to go next, right? I'm going to accept all the licenses, right? And I'm going to press finish. Now, if I have access and if I have administrative rights, like you said, right, then I'm good. If I don't have administrative rights, like if I'm in Windows, I need to be administrator, and I have to run Eclipse in administrative mode. On the Mac, you have no such problems. So I'm going to wait, I'm going to update Eclipse, and when it's updated, it's going to relaunch, and then hopefully I'm going to have less issues. But sometimes these are the steps we need to take. So if you get an update like this, and I'm not around, and it doesn't run, right, we have issues. Because one of your projects, next week I'm going to give you your new assignment, and your new assignment is going to be an application assignment, build an application. And then you're going to fool around with Eclipse, and you're going to pull your hair out, right? I don't want that. I want you guys to figure it out. Some of it you can infer by looking up online and going to Google, right, and Googling it. On some of it, you just have to follow instructions and do it again. Sometimes you have to launch it a couple of times, right? Sometimes it even helps to download it, to have a clean copy of Eclipse handy. Like download Eclipse, put it somewhere, park it somewhere, don't touch it. Make a copy of it, right? So you don't have to download it again. And then what you can do is you leave it, it's like a pristine copy of Eclipse. There's nothing in it whatsoever. Nothing loaded inside of it. Then you put it back, you load the ADT tools again. You already have the APK, so you leave it alone, right? The SDK, you have all that. So you don't have to touch that again, right? You don't have to download all those hours anymore. But just the ADT sometimes is messed, and you have to load that up again on Eclipse. You have a pristine copy for that. That's okay to do. And sometimes you can test your implementation tools by doing that, because you can set up as many copies of Eclipse as you want on your system, and they don't conflict. Okay? It says, hey, warning, you're installing software, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying, okay. I'll let it finish running. Hopefully this will run in the background and not kill my system. And it's amazing how we did it last time. We just didn't do some configuration. I got to do it again this time. I'm sorry to do this to you guys, but this is part of doing development. And by the way, just today I updated my iOS Xcode to 6.2. All right, so it just updated today. So like every platform does this on a regular basis. All right, so let's just refresh. Okay, and now I've got my new ADT tools in place that match up with the new level of the API that I just downloaded, right? And I quote unquote should have less problems. Let's try this again. Okay, if you notice, demo's problems went away. I'm going to go File, New, Android Application Project, and now I'm going to create a new one. And then look, now I'm trying to target Android 5.1 with my compile time, and Android 4X from my preview perspective, and Froyo 2.2. That won't work for me, man. It's got to be 2.3. I don't have 2.2. And I can certainly target the latest version, but if I do, then my target SDK should be that too. Right, 21, 22, and 22, if I'm going to do this. Let's try this way. Again, I'm going to call this, a welcome app, right? I'll leave it, just from my package name perspective, let's just leave it alone. Or you can certainly put in your, it's not going to hurt you to put ca.Georgian College or your own company name, and then click Next. Okay, again, same thing, Next. We're just going to click through and press, we're going to click blank activity, right? And we're going to click Finish. So I've done nothing different than I did the last time, right? I'm going to wait till this loads. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to see if I get any compilation errors. And as you see again, I get this problem when I try and support the latest version of Android, right? So I warn you, if you notice, that's why I call it something else. I've got this jar mismatch thing here in Android, which we'll call it in Eclipse, right? I did load my files up, but fixing my jar mismatch by going to sources into my main activity and fixing stuff in here, I highly, highly don't recommend. If I download this, if I go in here and it says, look, import Android support version 7 app, right, which is my my latest version 7. Are you guys getting version 8, by the way? Or is it V7 again for you? Right, so you guys have the same as I. The difference is that my latest version on Mac, as an example, when I try and download and install this thing, right, it gives me an error with the latest versions. It didn't give me an error with version 4, right, 4.22, but it did give me an error with version 5. So I'm not going to bother fooling around with this again, right? Again, I'm going to just scale down, and for our purposes, even version 2 is fine. But let's just go back. I'm just going to erase it this time. I don't know if you guys get the same errors as me. You may, but I want to show you the errors. I'm not going to hide them because it's just the way it's part of it. And at my installation, by the way, when I tested this at home, I got no errors. Today it updated, got errors again. Right? So it's not like, it was done. I'm not doing it on purpose. It is what it is. Let's try again. So project, I'll go this way, Android application project, and I'll go next. And this time I'll call it the same kind of, somewhat similar. I call this welcome app. And I'll target 2.33 gingerbread. And I'll go down to 4.2 jelly bean, right? 17. I'll also target 17 with my compile width. Right? So both, right? Go next, right? And then I'll finish the thing by just clicking through really quickly. And I love my errors. I love it. You getting the same errors as me? Because I love my errors. Right? If you don't have errors like I do, man, all the power to you. Right? I got lots of errors.
I got the colored one.
Did you get the color one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna do this one more time. I'm just curious. I love it. Found, what does it say? Found 2 versions of Android support version 4 jar in the dependency list. And again, I'm going to spend my time troubleshooting again with you guys, which is fantastic. I love it. It's a pain in the ass and a waste of our time. Yeah, it's giving me errors all over the place. Are you guys getting the same errors as me?
I got that one too.
Wonderful.
Missing stands.
You don't have any errors? You're awesome.
What do you think is my part?
Let's see this one here that I generated here before. Our project right here for properties. If you notice what I did here is I targeted it's Android 5.01, right? So API leveled that one. I've got a working project, no problem. I just want to generate one that works for you. I have one that works for me, but I don't have one that works for you. So I'm going to try this a couple more times. I'm still getting it. And no matter what I do, I'm going to get these problems, so I'm going to have to fix them. Now, if I try run configuration the way it is, if you notice, I'm not getting it says missing styles from my chosen layout. I can't see my main activity because when I look at my main activity, it's got an error. Here it is right here, right? And there's 2 ways to look at it, the graphical layout and the main XML layout, and both look fine to me, but the problem is that my jar files, which are up here in mainActivity.java, the way it combines when I look at the mainActivity.java file and tries to find support for Android support version 7, has an issue. So if I was to open this up, this is the one error that I'm getting, right? So let's see if I can manage that on my own. Let's see what other versions I have available to me. So I have version 4 available to me, right? But I don't have version 7 available to me for some reason. Take a look. I don't know if you guys get the same thing. If I go version 4.app .activity, that doesn't work. So I'm not accessing version 7. It's not finding version 7. I wonder if there's a quick fix. Sometimes there is. And I'm wondering also because I have this in my workspace, this app compat version 7, that I have to update it, like get rid of it all. Let's do that. Let's start fresh. It's not able to write. I'm having having access errors as well. Unable to write my jarless cache file, which means it might be a workspace issue. So let's take a look at my workspace. C users Thomas documents workspace. Let's go and what? What? Hold on a second. That's not right. Users Thomas documents workspace. Okay, no problem. I thought it was something else. That's okay, because I'm going to wipe it out. And these are all the things I got in there right now. Take a look. All this stuff. I don't want this. I want to go right into Android, which is this, and that's why I'm having these issues. So I think it's a workspace issue. If I was going to diagnose this thing, right? So let's make. I'm going to destroy this one for now. Move to trash, and I'm going to make a new one, new folder. I'm going to call it Android, and I'm going to move my workspace to my new Android workspace. So I'm going to go File. Sorry, I'm going to go and File, switch workspace, and I'm going to go Other, and I'm going to change my workspace to Android. That's good. I've not broken it for sure. What did I say about keeping an extra copy of Eclipse handy? Yeah. Luckily, I do have an extra copy of Eclipse.
That would be very ironic if you told us that in
Right here. In my virtual machine, boy. Right? I always have at least one extra copy of Eclipse. Now I just have to download another one, a pristine one. Okay, so here's my Eclipse version. This is not a version that I've installed tools on, right? And I'm going to change my, I'm going to add in my Android SDK or my Android package. So I'm going to go to install new software, and I'm going to check to see if I've got that as my ADT plugin's been installed. There it is, right? So I know I can do this, and I'm going to go to File. I'm going to switch workspace to Other. I'm going to change my workspace to Android, because I have access to the same documents. And guys, I apologize, but there's nothing I can do. To be honest with you, I never had this many problems with Android.
It's a sign.
Is it a sign? Is it a sign? Okay, I got a fresh copy of my Android. Let's see if I can run a new application. Project. And I cannot, which means my tools aren't installed properly. My ADT tools, right? Did you figure it out?
4 packages to install.
No way. Okay.
It's difficult if you want to administrator from this thing, which is weird because it works from.
So Robin, did you figure out your side? Did you try and download another version of Eclipse? Fresh copy and put it in another workspace? Point to another workspace. I know. If you point to another workspace, that's probably where the issue is. And it still didn't work? Yeah. Mine, sometimes it works for me. I change workspaces and I download a fresh copy of Eclipse and put the ADT in there. Good to go. Yeah. You shouldn't have a Java compilation error. It's not something that should have.
What's weird is if I run Eclipse as an administrator, it doesn't load any of the packages that I've installed or the extensions.
It won't do that. Yeah.
That's weird.
Let's try this out. And the good thing is both my Eclipses talk to each other because they share the same workspace. So if I make it run on one and run the other two, no problem. No. Yes. Oh, it needs a exe file for the on the PC side. But that's okay because I fixed my Mac on the other side. Okay, so here's my blank workspace. Let's try doing this again. You know what? I'm going to target everything 2.3.3 just to see what that does. Mm-hmm.
It's looking for something that's not there.
Work? So I got 16 and 17. Let's try 16. Okay, so I'm going to do everything 4.1. So everything's compatible. Yay! So I did everything 4.1. Everything. 4.1 the target, the lowest, everything 4.1, and I'm good.
Did you start with 2.0 the last time?
I said 2.3 with the lowest, but I just want everything 4.1 and I'm good to go. Okay, are you guys there with me? Go back and do everything 4.1. Hmm? You can still do it, even if you can do it in the background. Yeah. You don't have to wait. Blaine, did you get 4.1 or no? Is it still loading for you?
Yes. That says no point exception again.
Well, it says I already got 4.1 installed.
You got yours working, 4.1? Huh?
It says I got 4.1 installed.
I know. That's why I told you run 4.1. Has everyone got 4.1? This looks like 5 something is giving us errors.
I'm not getting errors even with 5, so.
That's good. Stay with 5.
Okay. I'll stay right here. Yeah. Oh, well, that's errors will show up in the console, right? Okay, I got it.
Seriously?
All right.
Low end laptop. My laptop died and I needed something cheaper.
No? 4.1?
Yeah, no, it's good.
4.1. 4.1, guys. We're going to work with 4.1 from now on.
See if that changes when you install.
Jean-Claude, you good? 4.1? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording because I don't want to kill everybody watching, looking through these problems. But we'll go back. We'll come back when everyone's up and running. So for those people who are watching online, 4.1 is what we're targeting, if you noticed.